Hello, beautiful people. My name is Zori, and I'm the founder of Widening Circles Spaceholders community, where coaches, therapists, facilitators from different parts of the world come together to support each other's unfolding as humans, as spaceholders, and as entrepreneurs. And as part of our work together, we like to create from time to time some videos where we introduce some special guests, some special people for inspiration and support on your journey as a space holder. And today I am very honored to have as a special guest Lisa Rombach, who's right now based in Vienna and who has been a member of our community for some months. She just completed her journey with us, and it felt like the perfect occasion to begin showing you a little bit more from the amazing people that our community is bringing together to share with you my appreciation for Lisa, for the way that she has been, for everything that she has inspired in my heart with her presence, with her gentleness, with her strength as well. This is one of the things that come to mind or to heart whenever I'm with Lisa in a shared space. I feel there is a very deep dropping down into the body, into the heart, and there is a sense of just something very light and very deep at the same time in sharing space with her. And there is a lot of background that she brings to the space as well, that allows her to show up in this kind of presence. And I would like to open the space for her to introduce herself, to share a few words about the work she's doing and really what drives that work, what she's passionate about. So thank you, Lisa. So honored to have you.
Zori, I feel so much joy rush through my body when I hear you. It's like this last 2 minutes, I felt like you are opening a door that also connects me to this shared space of inaugurating energetic environments where souls can meet. And that's sort of what I feel the most sisterhood and brotherhood and humanhood with in all the people that I've met in this Widening Circles community. And so you asked me to share a little bit about my background, my passion, and my work. And I want to see if I can answer that more from what's present in me than from sort of the biographical text that emerges in my head and from my mind, because over the years I've realized that what it's missing, despite maybe being abundant and varied, is the energetic signature of what I stand for, which is not necessarily easy to capture in words. I think the language of my work is presence. And I'm only slowly learning to translate that to human interactive language. My background, and I think I'm also still unpacking all the gifts this journey has brought me, is strongly rooted in classical music. So I grew up in a family where we made music all the time. I would fall asleep with my parents playing Mozart together in the living room. And it was a loving and inspiring environment. And then, as I imagine many people can relate to, there was a time where I also started to feel and see the confinements of that world. And right now, I'm very grateful that it still is a very vivid part of my canvas, of my life canvas, that I get to make music. And I studied to be a singer, and I started to be a violinist, but I wouldn't call myself that anymore, because it's a matter of practice, like most skills and arts. Yeah, but the singing has really brought me into a deep dialogue with not only my diaphragms and sort of my energetic channels, but it has invited a lot of poetry into my life. And it has taught me a lot about the importance of pauses and silence. Because only out of that can like a sound emerge that then is singular enough that it can touch us. And yeah, something about the purity of sound that emerges from silence, and then overall the purity of information that emerges. And maybe lately I've been exploring more deeply that the language of my body for silence is more one of space. So it's like my ears know silence, but my body knows spaciousness. And those are very different from stillness. And so as I dug my path through life, I tried to find the pieces that would help me reflect what's going on in my inner world, and that would match the values that were sort of innately present in me since a very early age. I loved to always loved to touch people, get in contact with people, sort of read the unique signature that everybody brings. And so I embarked on a journey in parallel to my singing studies, where I first trained to be a feldenkrais practitioner, and I liked the invitation to look for what is already working, and I loved the invitation to look for what feels good. And in later years, I was so delighted to find yoga with Adrienne, because she made that her motto. And I thought like that's what sums up what all of the feldenkrais work really has brought to my life, and what I've brought to my clients for the past 15 years is sort of find what feels good for you and let that be your guidance. And maybe good as in aligned, as in true. And sometimes what feels true and aligned is not immediately the most comfortable, but it usually leads to more pleasure in life in a long way. Yeah. And then I did immerse myself and dedicate myself to the study of structural bodywork, and I became a licensed massage therapist and a craniosacral worker, and I learned to work with fascia, did a lot of work with scar tissue. And recently, a wonderful yoga teacher, she brought an analogy that I want to share with you, Zori, about how in the body we learn that scar tissue will never be like the skin it was before, but we make it softer over time. And when people have quirks in relationships, or there is a lot about attachment patterns these days, and also sort of coping mechanisms that we develop out of how life has shaped us, we also have these invisible scars. And also in being with each other, what I found is that often, at least the way that I grew up, was to believe that therapy is something that's supposed to make you normal again, and healthy means like in a sense that like the skin was before, like the matrix was before, but ultimately that the work that we do is embrace our quirks, embrace how we are, and accept that these scars actually are fantastic testament of our survival and our adaptation. And so are is the funkiness that we all bring as in our interactions. And right now I'm thinking like my funkiness of like talking a lot right now is also something that it's just a way of, brings me, it's allowed me to connect to a lot of joy. Often the words have allowed me to connect to joy, and in being with each other, we can just make that tissue of our soul more pliable again and integrate it so that there is just no pain anymore. And but it's not to get rid of the scars, but integrate who we've become fully. And that's, yeah, through my path of finding at some point that structure is not all and function is not all, and that, oh, we don't always have choice and we cannot always just find what feels good by ourselves. I felt so fortunate and lucky to discover the work of Peter Levine, and I studied somatic experiencing and learn more about the language of the nervous system. And then that brought me already with an abundant toolbox and sort of a wealth of openness, I would say, a wealth of openness. It brought me to my first contact with circling and authentic relating in the beginning of 21. And I felt like I had come home. I still feel like that. And I'm very happy to now have this as the main gig in my life, is sit with people and be with them and bring in all the wisdom that I, can just offer from my background. And very often I feel like my biggest gift is that I know very little and I'm willing to admit it. Like, yeah. So that's a bit. That sounds, it feels true. Like my body was feeling joy, as I told you. So that's what wanted to come out.
Amazing. I'm just being with this feeling of richness and expanding capacity to hold more, to be more, to receive more and give more as I'm listening to you. And it felt so interesting to me to hear that actually the foundation for your journey with this has been with music. It's like, and I can imagine that that's bringing a very different flavor to the way that you approach it. Just that way of, it starts from there. It starts from the acknowledgement of the poetry that is in this moment, of the music that is coming through each of us, of the space that is needed for that to emerge, and it's just so interesting to me, because that's one of the things I really appreciate, and I really look to hold the space for, is for that unique flavor to come that also includes, the softened tissues from the scars that we have, and like, what does, this, okay, we might get training in this thing, in that thing, in another thing, and then eventually, what is that unique flavor? What is that essence that each of us is holding through all of this coming together? So I'm curious, do you have a sense of, that one word or that essence of what you look to bring in the spaces you hold, in what you stand for through your work?
Yeah, here I am And there is a word emerging, and then I noticed my analytical brain going like, because English, obviously, it's not our first language, like maybe it doesn't make any sense what I'm going to say, but I'm going to try. Like a word that came up is reverence. And it's sort of bowing to the miracle that we are, and honoring that amazing gift that we've been given, to be human for this time that we are here, and to inhabit this body and this mind, and ultimately this constellation of soul that I am right now, and that, like, so yeah, reverence.
Beautiful. Thank you. I noticed some, it's almost like some tears on the back of my mind, just on the back of my eyes, hearing you speak that. There's something about honoring the sacredness of life, and the way that you also bring this flavor of appreciation for all of its colors, all of its flavors, and acknowledgement of, the scars and the traumas that can also be part of that journey of being in reverence to life. And what is here also as a question following that is, one of the things we like to check in on in our community when we gather is about what is alive, what is here, as a way to just basically turn towards life. And I'm curious right now as we speak, in this specific moment of your life, which can be not just this present moment, but like an expanded present moment, or season, what do you feel is alive for you as a space holder? What do you feel is something that is present in your growth and unfolding as a professional?
That I am feeling how I grow more willing to let joy lead the way, or let trust lead the way. And I'm very aware of like being here, listening to you, sort of, there's something that I am still struck or just a little grateful that I listened to the intelligence that paved its way to pick up on the signals that you sent into space, for example. And I remember it's been maybe 2 years, already, since I first became aware of the work that you do. And I felt so much resonance with what you were bringing. And so what's alive in me right now is that by sitting here with you is a testament that I'm growing better at trusting my gut and trusting where it leads me, and allowing the good in my life, and allowing what I love in my life, and allowing to not just generate everything out of me, but really experience this paradigm shift of embracing what is already there, and surrendering to me just being a voice that is singing in that choir of life. Yeah.
Wow. Just so much. I'm also noticing, just also speaking to you, as I shared earlier before our conversation, I was a little bit, yesterday something came and I needed to process it. And, and this morning I was like, oh my God, how do I come here? And, I love Lisa so much. And I'm like, I want to make sure that I show up at my best capacity with you, and I'm finding that I'm discovering that by being with you and by allowing that feeling of joy, that what you just spoke, and it's almost like you brought it to the surface, what was already here through your words. So it's present in the wider context of presence and present moment, but also in the space right now. I can feel it being with you. And I'm curious, what is your secret? Like if you would, I hear that this is something that's alive for you right now, you know, being willing to let joy lead the way. And I imagine that you've been exploring that for a while, or even if it's more new, I'm just curious, like what is it that nurtures and supports that in you? How do you go about that? Do you have any tools or methods, or you know, some habits you're building, something that helps you be that?
Yeah, I noticed that voice that really says, like, Lisa, make sure that Zori knows how much she has contributed to, you know, like making that stronger in you. Also by the space that you're creating with widening circles. And it's to let the people close that resonate most with your soul, and not letting circumstances or reason sort of get you off track. And most importantly, probably the voices not of reason, because there might be a very crystal clear sort of higher reasoning that we have access to, that can just be wonderful. But maybe the voices of the hurt parts, or the scars that not yet are integrated and that are more defensive and that want to keep us on the paved ways, that want to keep us with what's safe, that want to keep, you know, like what's known, what's been shown to us. But basically all of these voices that want to outsource the authority for my path to external sources, outsource sources. And for me, like, if you ask, like, what is the recipe or the tool, it's just like to consciously nurture, look for, and engage in spaces that bring me closer to myself, that welcome the inquiry, instead of wanting a finite version of me, that welcome me on the way. So recently I've been so drawn, and I'm like working on I don't know if it's going to be a course as well, but I'm working on a book with my sister on the in-between of how to harvest the treasures of the in-between in a society and world where milestones are so celebrated and easily found. And it seems that when we talk about our lives, it's often in stations, right? And what are important stations of our life? And the stations are great. That's usually where people get on board and off board. But so much happens in the train between stations. And yeah, it's like, if the one thing that I could give, you know, to share with anyone, it's just like, be present in the transitions, and embrace the moment that you're waiting for the bus to come.
Wow, I love hearing that. That's like poetry to my ears in this moment, because yeah, in the Mayan lens where I'm based in Guatemala, we're going through a time outside of time right now. And I was just and it's that representation culturally and historically and in the way that they keep track of time. It's a representation of that in-between space. And I can really feel it. And it's, just being in it. And it feels like, just listening to it's like there's like a warm blanket coming around of, okay, I can relax in that. I can allow that. And yeah, that feels really nurturing right now. Yeah. And also really appreciate the words that you shared about what you found and what you looked to nurture for yourself in our space, in Widening Circles. And actually this brings me to a question around, what it was that you had as an intention when you came in, and then what is it that you found on the way, or what emerged for you that maybe was that or wasn't that that was something that you're taking as a gift from having been with us.
Yeah, I feel that joining Widening Circles has made my internal voice stronger, that wants to live fully with the things that I love. And I have found nothing but encouragement to become myself more fully in these circles. I have witnessed others that have their own version of what looks like a similar journey. It is both humbling and joyful to realize that we're not paving the way alone. Mm-hmm. What I feel is that somehow in this space that you create, many people come together that still have some degree of having been lonely fighters for a vision of a more connected world. And since that seems to be amongst the big areas of overlap, this desire for more connection, or like you have this image of the mycelium, right, which is a big connective tissue of the earth and the network, that this is something that really can only grow and come about in togetherness, and not in the pioneering of one spore. It's like one spore alone will only do so much. And so I would say that even though I had a taste of that before entering Widening Circles, but I am just more relaxed in doing my work because I can trust I don't have to do all of it myself. I know that on so many places on this planet, there are people dedicated to creating more truthful, heartful, creative and loving connection, and spaces that invite us to be true to ourselves and honor our nature. And this is just something that puts me at ease on a deeper level, in the middle of turmoil, in the middle of news, in the middle of being a mother of 2 children and having to navigate life. It's just beautiful to know how we all sort of work through the gravel and seek the water. And
amazing. Thank you so much for these words. And yeah, there's something that lands very deeply with me when you speak about not doing everything alone. I feel like that's definitely a journey I'm on still myself. And there's something about, it's almost like the trajectory of, many of us come from different kinds of traumas, different kinds of things where we have opted in for belonging at the cost of authenticity, right? And so there is that kind of like, okay, I'm going to go and reclaim my authenticity, including in the work that I do. But also then there's the journey of how does that authentic path fit into a shared human context as well. And like that continuous balance between the two. And yeah, so thank you for shedding a light on this and for your beautiful words. And I'm kind of also with the word integration of like, okay, so, we have walked this path and we have learned these things, and like, but what is coming from here that is unique in the way that it's bringing all of these different threads together and applying them to the context we're in. And recently I feel like there's something around integration in that context also meaning, a pattern I've seen in myself and others in the space around how do we bridge presence and mind, how do we bridge, this deep capacity to drop in together and be authentic with one another, with actually like the goals and the process to move forward, and with bringing our mental and intellectual skill also, like how do those two come together? And if you have any tips or something that has worked for you in that respect, I was just curious to check with you. And I heard you speak about it in the beginning when you were speaking about like, how do I bring all of these things into language?
I noticed what's like knocking my door is like practicality. Is that what you were asking for on some level?
It's like there's something of like that presence, and how it's like for some people, myself included, in some moments it feels like a switch of like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do all these things, and then I'm gonna go into this other space where I just drop in and I'm just present, and then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do all these things. So it's like there's something of like how the two of them come together.
Yeah, that deeply resonates for me. And it's like, I have a story that whoever hears me say that is like, that's an old story. And I think it is old, and it has been said many times. And yet I know the last days I've been walking around, not for the first time in this life maybe, but I was like so aware of the shift of when I'm a human doing and when I'm a human being. And it's really so, that's it. And it's like there's just two qualities to life. And my whole dedication goes to marrying those, and not like giving more value to the being necessarily. There is nothing bad about doing. Isn't it great? Because for me this stands for the material realm. It stands for where my will can move, mountains, even if it's just a little sand mountain that I moved together with my son. But if you really surrender to the marvel that my will can now bend his fingers, look, Zori, look what I'm doing. Look what I'm doing. And like we take it for granted. But if we can just reconnect to the magic of that, I think that doing becomes fun again. And then if we marry the freedom of our soul with the freedom of a decision, what our doing looks like, if those two get closer and it's less of an either or, I think yeah, like by now I know that there seems to be an air of like positivity or something around me, but I do want to name that this, it seems like getting the right mixture is such trial and error process, right? And it's like learning to walk. And I see this with my children all the time, like the many bruised knees. It's just like I'm bruising myself every day, learning to walk that path. And just to give a name to it, it's not without pain that this alchemy happens. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I can feel so much the presence of the spirit of the child as you speak. Like just this sense of, on one side, it's like the marvel of like, oh, look, now I can do this. Or look, now I can do something else that I wasn't able to do before. And it's like, that's one of the things that I feel children really teach us. It's like all these things we take for granted, it's everything is learned step by step. And that also involves, as you said, like some bruising and some pain as we fall down and get up again. And yeah, just beautiful
Sorry, because right now I'm also aware of the amazingly available inner children that you have. They have different qualities, so it's not just one for me. But you asked a little bit about the specifics of widening circles, and I think that is one of the things that for me characterizes the space, or as much as I've inhabited and seen of it, is your ability to curate that space with the wisdom of your inner children. Like every time you open or are present or close a space, I can feel them too. And that invites a very distinct quality that I love so much.
It feels so amazing to receive. I feel so seen when you say that.
It's like that. That's a part of me that's more like, because I'm so done, with white scholars, old, people that have all the wisdom in the world and have lost their inner bridge to, the university systems that I went through and like getting my master's and all of that was really navigating a field where it was of no value that I have a playful heart. And I think for me to be allowed to enter a learning space where that has a value and where even the space is curated on those pillars of aliveness, it's just breathtakingly wonderful.
Thank you so much. I feel so touched right now. I might start crying. Thank you so much for these beautiful words and for acknowledging this, because it is a challenge, I feel, for me to keep on trusting that sometimes, in the face of everything that's out there. And there's something also earlier you spoke about outsourcing authority to external sources, and like that's been such a journey for me of like learning how not to do that, how to allow for knowledge and skill to come into my experience without losing my power, without forgetting this innate playfulness and the wisdom of the playfulness and the child that is inside. And I just feel super grateful and so seen in hearing you say that. And I want to perhaps invite us towards closing the space and see if there's anything here that didn't get to be shared, or anything that maybe you want to point to if people are interested in learning more about your work. There's Circling Anywhere, where you're hosting gatherings, but besides that, I know you have other things going on. So
yeah, let me see what is sort of essential, what feels essential for me. Yeah, for some reason, for the first time right now, what came to me is the word key soul. I never had that come to me, but I don't want to leave the space without acknowledging my key soul, which is my husband. For me, is like a key to so many places, and not just the through the things that I've learned by him sharing his craft with me. And he's an extraordinary facilitator of healing and presence and transformation and meaning making. But just the gift, and that's something I have to thank myself for and him, that we both are willing to look in the mirror that we are for each other, and not run away from it. And so I have a very deep sense of I would not be as close to being who I am if I wouldn't allow him to be close to me. This feels essential. And then on a lighter note, Circle Anywhere is now rebranding to the Relateful Company, and I'm incredibly grateful to be working as a Relateful facilitator and also as a Relateful coach. And I bring a lot of that Relateful work to my own realm, where I do offer journeys and explorations and encounters under the brand of Nuances of Awareness, which I've already had for quite some years, my Noah, and I really, really like that a lot. And currently very excited to also bring this to my both of my homes, like here in Austria and Vienna, to start offering in-person Relateful encounters. And in my husband's home in Portugal, in Cascais, we're also gonna, together with some of my friends, we're gonna start hosting that work. And another essential thing is that I'm so looking forward to the day I can hug you.
No,
and it'll happen,
I'm sure. I feel it.
Yeah.
And I feel the same. I feel very touched in this space with you, hearing your words, also hearing you point to your husband and the beauty of that union, which I'm sure, has its challenges as all other relationships. But, I think somewhere some time ago, I read a quote that was saying something like, the way that a woman relates to her man is the way that she relates to her mind, and the way that a man relates to his woman is the way that he relates to his heart. And there is a certain journey of consciousness traveled to allow for that union to be the beauty that it is and that you share about. And I just feel so inspired witnessing that. I'm so touched by your share. And I would love to give you a hug. Right now it's gonna be a virtual one. I'm looking forward for the real one. And in the meantime, anyone who's interested in learning more about Lisa's work with Circling Anywhere, with Nuances of Awareness, we'll be able to find links to that in the description of the video, as well as links to Widening Circles if you're curious to find out more about us. So thank you so much, all of you, for sharing this precious time with us and exploring. And thank you so much, Lisa. Love you so much. You're such an amazing, inspiring, beautiful being. I feel so blessed for having you in my life, for having shared this journey with you, and for having spent this time together.